Welcome, podcast fans. It's time for the What's Up Bro podcast show, presented by J&J Production Studios, the home for all your entertainment needs. All kinds of great topics discussed every week, a variety of different themes offered, special guest appearances, prize giveaways, and so much more. Stay tuned. And now, here are your hosts, Sam Crow and Big Hoss.
Well, good evening, hello, and welcome everybody to a very special episode of the What's Up Bro podcast show for two very big reasons. Number one, we have our good friend Ramsey Veitch here to dive back with us into the martial arts world. We're going to talk all kinds of neat stuff there. And also, as you probably know, we are not currently live. This show has been pre-recorded for your entertainment. As you guys know, I mentioned this in a couple of episodes, and we're going to continue to mention this up until I'm leaving for vacation, so we're going to have a couple nights where we're going to be off, but we wanted to make sure that we have plenty of content available to still give you guys the entertainment you so richly deserve. And we also wanted to get back here because it's been kind of crazy, and the schedules have been nuts, and we've been getting a lot of things going, and especially with a lot happening in the summertime. As you guys know, we're doing our summer shows coming in here. But we've been talking to Ramsey, wanting to get him back, and he is here. Ramsey, welcome. Glad to have you here.
It's great to be here.
I'm so glad we can do this. I'm glad it worked out schedule-wise because, again, it's always fun to juggle things. So we try to make it when it counts. So this episode will be up. It's either going to be up Saturday, July the 8th or Friday, July 15th. Not sure where we're going to put that yet, but that will be available so you guys can listen to this. And, of course, you're listening to this right now, so glad you guys are here. Hope you'll enjoy it. We will be back live, potentially. We're planning to. The Saturday, we will be back July 15th. If we're back early enough, we might do a live episode that night, so stay tuned there. You guys will have updates for that as follows, and we'll keep you guys posted. Make sure you follow us on social media. Check out our link tree. All of our social media accounts are viewable there, as well as the streaming services that feature our podcast, where you can find all these shows, all the episodes, including Into the Martial Arts World, which we've been doing with Ramsey here. This is actually episode number 6 in this series. We have a very interesting topic we're going to get to. Just trying to think if we have any other announcements we want to share other than that vacation one. Actually, I think we're pretty well caught up. And again, forgive me because we're recording this early on, and I'm trying to think in the past and in the future and in the present. So I think we're covered for the most part. The vacation announcements were the big ones, so we'll definitely let you guys know there. So without further ado, let's jump in here. We will have taken a little bit of a pause here. We are recording this, and hopefully the software cooperates because we've had some technical glitches. Hopefully it won't be the case today, but we'll see what goes on here. So let's dive in here, and what we're going to talk about tonight, and I want to ask Ramsey this because I was thinking about this. We've talked about a lot of things so far in the last few episodes. We've talked about training philosophies, different types of training. We've talked about how to deal with injuries, which is always a common thing. Just a lot of different, there's so many things we can talk about, but one thing we didn't focus on, and I want to start with here tonight actually, is we mentioned how you started this as your own business. You broke away. Obviously, if you guys listened from the beginning, you know Ramsey and I met at the same school. We trained with the same teacher a ways back. But you eventually broke away. You have your own school now. And one of the things we didn't really touch on is, first of all, we'll start with this question. I'll ask this first. We'll launch there. So for you, what is the difference? How do you feel transitioning? Now, I know you did start to help sort of teach a lot of the classes back at the old place too. But what are some of the significant things you notice when you play that change that role between student and then teacher, when it's not you following someone else's lead or tutelage, but you're the one that's trying to lead others and teach them? What are some big differences that you found, and just even throughout your course year training, but specifically now that you are on your own? What are some of those things that you can kind of gain throughout the process?
Right. The big transition that happens between student becoming teacher in general is usually a natural one. It should be a choice. However, sometimes it's not a choice, and it's more of an obligation or a highly suggested thing that you do from your instructor. For me, it's always been a natural thing. I've always enjoyed teaching people what I know or how I perceive things to be. Whether that's right or wrong is another story. but I've always loved expressing my knowledge and my wisdom, and giving it to other people. So for me, the teaching role is very natural. It comes natural, and so I've always looked for the opportunities to teach whenever I could. The opportunities that I had were when our instructor never really went on vacations, and
Yeah.
almost always there because that was his full-time gig.
Right.
That was his livelihood. So he was almost always there, which is understandable. But we were always like egging him on, like me and some of the other black belts or higher ups were like, dude, why don't you go on vacation? Why don't you go on a cruise or something?
Yeah.
Like, get out of here for a week. We'll have the dojo. Don't worry about it. And we were always trying to get him to go. He's like, I love what I do, and I'm always on vacation because I love what I do, blah blah. And I was kind of jealous when he said that, but it's true. He loved what he did. So if you, they say that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Right.
So that's really cool. And so, when he wasn't there or we had to cover classes, eventually he got to a point where he was starting to take regular vacations. So they would be like, oh, great, we're going to cover class for a week, and I would split it with some other people or what have you. So that was always fun, and I always took the opportunity to do that. The one cool thing about teaching is the idea that you end up learning more while you teach
Mm-hmm.
than while you are a student. There's so much that goes into that. So anybody who has the opportunity to teach anything, whether it's a language or a musical instrument, or just teach somebody about something anything about, doesn't matter if you're an expert or not. Just teach people what you know about anything, and you're going to learn what you know and what you don't know really quickly.
Right.
Okay, because you're either going to get shut down or you're going to come across a crossroad where you're like, wait a minute, I don't know what I'm talking about, or wait a minute, I do know what I'm talking about, or wait a minute, this warrants further education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what instructing should be about.
Sure.
Now, some people have to be thrust into the role.
Right.
Like I have I have a student who I want him to teach more, and he doesn't mind it, but he is a little hesitant.
Yeah.
But he does enjoy it.
Sure.
Justin knows what I'm talking about. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just not everybody has that, despite them being very social.
Right.
They just don't have this, like, they don't think that they're good at it, therefore they don't want to do it.
Right.
And in the beginning, guess what? I don't care who you are or what you know. I don't care how good you think you are. You're not going to be a good teacher in the beginning.
Right.
And some people never become good teachers. And some people aren't even that good, but they're still good teachers.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right? So being a teacher doesn't have anything to do with being a black belt. That's a great starting point.
Sure.
But, there's plenty of people that are awesome teachers, and they'll teach you everything that you need to know to become like a blue belt, for example. They're just really good, or they're so enthusiastic about it that you can learn from them.
Right.
And you need to pay attention to it. But I think the false presumption, if those are the words for it, or that oh, you're a black belt, therefore you must be a teacher, or you're a black belt, you must therefore be good at teaching. And those two things just aren't true. Not true at all. Some people just don't want to teach, or they're not good at it, so they don't. And some people are the opposite. Maybe they're not the greatest, but they're good at teaching what they already know. So me personally, like teaching, I learn every single time I teach. I figure out what I know and what I need more work on,
Mm-hmm.
and I pass off the information that I'm pretty confident with.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea.
I think that's key too, because I know we're talking about, and I remember because it's funny with the particular student mentioning there when you had your vacation, you're away for that week in the end of April, I believe, if I remember correctly there. I had been in a couple of classes, and same thing, he's saying, like, I really don't enjoy it. I mean, it's hard being on this side of it, because he's asking me, like, some things helping. I'm like, yeah, I remember just some of the things, so trying to, like, help and kind of give him the right direction there, and just saying to him, look, just, do your own thing, and trust yourself, knowing that, you know, obviously you're not going to leave him in charge or to do that if you weren't confident he could handle that. And because some of the things we did, it was like, I know this is just basic stuff, and I'm not really like going to be like Ramsey and go through all the technical stuff, and I'm not really sure. It's perfectly fine. I even said to him, basics are good. You know, if you have to go over that a few times, do with what you know, because that's obviously a strength for you. So if that's what you're comfortable with, then, you know, just go with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And, you know, just kind of building that confidence back. I think that really is the only thing that he was lacking at that point. But yeah, it's a transition for everybody. Everybody's different, and some people are, you know, there are some people better at it than others. We can be honest about it. Everybody's got different degrees of how they train, how they teach, rather, and, you know, style and direction. And, you know, as we said earlier, you know, for you, obviously having had the same instruction from our teacher for a long time, I can tell, because I've seen that from my perspective. There's some validity and some similarities that are there, which are good things, not bad things. But then again, too, you also want to make that structure where you're making something your own. And that's one thing. Now, again, this is from what I'm sitting across. You may have seen it differently, but like with some of the other black belts that were there, that were trained under our teacher there, and I've watched some of the leadership they had there. A couple of them had taught there a few times as like a special there coming in. And, you know, you can see, obviously, you want to have similarities. It's just natural when you train with somebody for a while, you're going to show some resemblance there. But you really want to have more of that independent staple. Like, obviously, you know, you have your own system going through there. You have your own. We talked about it several times. You mentioned that a lot of times where, you know, I try to, like, even with curriculum, trying to keep it simpler, not making it too complex. I mean, you can go 1,000 different ways with it, but you're just trying to really get to, for you, it's like, this is what I want to teach, and this is what works for me. This is the nuts and bolts of it. You know, I don't want to get too over complex. And as I recall, and it might be obviously probably different now, the curriculum even back then was pretty intensified, where it was also difficult because of two different system and different lineages learning from, made it really much of a head scratcher at times, which if you paid attention you could get it, but it was still on the more difficult side of just trying to cram all that knowledge in. Not to mention the fact there were multiple arts. So it wasn't just one particular art. There were several that you're kind of like trying to shove a 700-page book through your head. And it was more headache and hassle, which I felt like a lot of times a lot of people tended to gravitate away from or not show up for, or just it was getting too intense where it's like, you know, this is overkill. And when you strip it down, you want it to just be right to the point. You want it to be just the core elements of not getting too technical, but things that are practical enough that a person can do when you show them that. So that's all important there. Now, when you look at that, and obviously you had to go through and figure out for your curriculum when you started running things there, what were those some of those core elements or key things that you thought about? Like, if I'm going to teach this, you know, I want to get to the basics, I want to get right to the root of it all, you know, just weeding that kind of stuff out. How did you determine that? Like, what's essentially what I want to show, what I know from before, as opposed to this is just getting a little too technical or a little advanced where I don't think it's going to benefit anybody? How was it trying to figure out or separating that information?
Yeah, you know, you have to know your audience and realize who needs what information. I think that's what's important about being a teacher. We have to consider the skill set of who you're teaching, or just the comprehension level of who we're teaching. So if, you know, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of people that are brand new, I don't want to get into the technical aspects of too much. Mm-hmm. I want to focus more on what I usually tell people is the gross motor movements of any technique. So I just want to show them, oh, look, you step here. You know, I'll use certain terminology over and over again. You know, you move left with your left foot, you know, and then you step it in this way, and you put your hand here, you do this. Just show them and have them do exactly what they need to do, without getting technical at all. So the technicality will come to people who are either getting that really fast, or the people who have already done that type of stuff already. Then we can start getting technical, because in the beginning, if you don't know how to do it, like really what to do
right.
in the very, very beginning, just move here, do this, and do that, then you're never going to understand the technical aspects of it. I can tell you, oh, look, we're doing this and this and this, and make these little adjustments here, here, and here, and this is why. But if you never even learn to just step left, put your hand here, and put your hand down, and then do this to that person, you'll never, ever have to learn the technical stuff because you never even learned the gross motor movements of it. So that's how I break it down to people, and then hopefully they get it in a quicker manner. So if you are learning and you're a white belt or just newer in general, or this is newer for you, because you've done it a whole bunch of times, but you're learning a brand new technique, just dumb it down, for lack of better terms, to just simple, basic, everyday movements. Right, get that down, and then when you can do that effectively or efficiently and smoothly, then start tweaking it here and there.
Yep.
When I correct students, I try to correct one or two things at a time. I try not to correct too much at one point, especially for somebody who is newer, because they just, they can handle it there, but they're going to forget about it more because it's just so much, do this, don't do that, so much to remember. So as long as they're just doing it more or less correctly in the beginning, that's really what I want to start off with. Now, if I'm teaching a black belt or somebody who's been there for a while, I'm gonna say, okay, like I'm gonna point out, okay, this is a bad thing, and I'm gonna get a little more technical for sure. So breaking it down for students is super important, and I believe that that's a good style for me to do because. Whether or not it works, has yet to be seen. But for some people it works, for some people it doesn't. So everybody's got their different learning methods. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what's interesting is too, and I know like for me, and I've witnessed, I've seen, several. I've been doing this a long time, almost as long as you have there. But just the longevity is just seeing people come and go and. Different sizes, different shapes, different skill sets, all that sort of thing. And, for me, like I said, I'm always more, I can do it. I'm hands-on. If you show it to me, I can do it. But sometimes I need to take it and break it down step by step just to get the technicalities, again, if you will. And it's all about, understanding it's not always about quickness. It's about getting the mechanics right. So that kind of teaching helps. And when you look at it, because obviously, again, you said audience is important because you need to know who you're working with and who's there. And I think a lot of it too is I can think of at least one student I know that's there. I've also taken a chance because he will talk with me, and I try to talk to him to help encourage him a little bit to be, a little bit more confident. And I think motivation is also key because when he is motivated, he can do very well. I just don't think because he's younger, so I don't think there's a lot of full-on confidence there yet, but there's potential there. So it's just understanding that connectivity of the person. And usually I know for me, if I'm ever asked a question, like he'll usually ask me questions when we have time to talk there, and I'll say, this is what I've experienced, this is what I recognize, this is what, obviously it's me, so it might not be it's not going to be the same for you. I should not say it won't be the same, but you just have to kind of recognize that a little bit and understand that it's a growing pattern for everybody, which you can probably relate that even when you started your training way back when. I'm certain it wasn't always smooth sailing from the beginning because you're just learning and getting in the groove of things. It does help when, again, I've done it for a while. I can pick up usually on things just because might just be the way that I'm wired to do that, but it's different for everybody. But I find that always helps there. And then the flip side of that, which is also difficult, which I'm sure you've probably had this, but when you have that student, or say students, plural, if there's a situation like that are maybe, what's the right term to put it in? They're kind of the late bloomer types, where, and again, it could be a confidence issue, could be something else, but you see that, or maybe they've come to say, I kind of feel like I'm stagnated, I feel like I'm not going far, I'm not doing much, I don't feel like things are making sense, nothing's clicking right now. That's obviously a concern of, you don't want the doubt to creep in because that could be a negative deterrent for even wanting to continue, and that's been something we've seen in the past. So when you approach that with a student or students that maybe they say it to you outright. Maybe you just kind of know because you can see them. You just have that intuition that this is an issue. What are some things that you do to kind of help to keep a positive encourager on them, as far as not telling them it's still worth showing up, still worth the training there, but you just might have to take a little more time to be patient until you get this going. What are some of those things that you deal with if you deal with those?
Right. I try to use intuition. People do not talk about this usually.
Mm-hmm.
At least not that I know of. I've never personally went to my teacher and said, "Hey, I think I'm progressing too fast, or too not fast enough," or I've never really expressed those concerns myself, and I've never really seen people do that. So it's kind of like as an instructor, especially somebody who owns the school, it's kind of like, I don't want people to feel that way, especially since I have such a small school. I don't want people to leave for any reason, but let alone because they think they're not getting it. And especially with adults are relatively lazy when it comes to physical activity.
Yeah.
Unless it's something they really, really like.
Truth.
They may be easily discouraged. Wow, this is a lot of information. This is a lot of overwhelmed with just stuff, and they're not going to get it. In order to get martial arts, anybody and everybody has to just have two different kinds of mentalities. Either one should be sufficient, and there could be more or less. I'm just kind of like thinking off the cuff here.
Sure.
But I'm gonna say that we'll come in with the mentality of I'm just gonna come, do everything I'm told, leave, and be done with it.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe I'll take notes. Maybe I'll do this. Whatever. Right. That's going to allow you to just take it easy, let your body absorb the information at whatever rate it's going to absorb, and then go from there.
Yep.
Yep. But that requires consistency, and you either get it or you don't. But just know that the more you come, the more the information is just starting to click.
Yep.
You're going to start making these connections, and eventually be like, oh, great. And I have some students doing that right now.
Yep.
They don't put any extra into it, but they show up on a regular basis, right? They're consistent with their training, and they're just naturally getting it. Or you can see a change in it, which is really awesome. You can see a change in their skill set. The other way of doing it is to be super proactive with your training. The training could be like, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to focus, I'm going to take notes, I'm going to try to implement what I did yesterday.
Yep.
I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to work with this person, I'm going to try to work on this, I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to think about this at home, I'm going to do homework, I'm going to study, I'm going to do a whole bunch of stuff. And there's those kinds of people.
That's what I do, yep.
So either one I think is just fine. It just depends on how much energy you want to put into it. But either one's gonna suffice. But they both take time and energy, to do it. Right. I've always kind of been in the middle there.
Yes.
In the beginning, I always just kind of came, and then I would do certain kinds of notes at certain times.
Yep.
Until eventually, a couple of years down the line, because I came with the mentality of I'm just gonna. My goal is just to come here and learn martial arts.
Right.
For these reasons.
Yep.
That's it. That was my goal. My goal wasn't to get good or get good and fast. Now, that was not even on my mind. My goal was just to come and just have fun. I know I'm learning, and then they leave, and that's it. Right.
Yep.
I didn't go home thinking about this stuff, and all that. And then eventually, I started going home, taking voice notes, writing physical notes down, putting notes in my phone, keeping track of things a little more as I was starting to test through the ranks and starting to get a bombardment of different kinds of techniques and test criteria and all this stuff. I'm just like, okay. And now I'm starting to write stuff down because I need to keep it organized. So
and even for memory too, just to remember it too. Like, there's so many things just to keep yourself in check too with that. Like, I got to keep them all itemized.
And I would look at notes that I have.
Yep.
From year 3, and I'd be like,
I still do too. Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep.
You know, that's like so basic. I can't believe I even wrote that.
I have
down,
like pages like this, like, oh my gosh, I copied everything down.
or I don't even understand what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't quite know how
Why
to
did I
put
write
it
that? Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way.
I even
So
spelled it wrong. Like, what the heck? Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So that was kind of my adventure, into the martial arts. But everybody's different. So
Yeah.
if you're coming into martial arts and you're like, man, I want to get good fast, you can get
it's
really
possible.
good fast.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to focus.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to focus on it. Don't think you're just gonna show up.
You gotta commit.
And get good fast. Now, some people can and will, right? But they're probably like 22 years old.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And they're probably athletic and they
Sure.
probably can do this.
Which helps. Yep.
The things that are detrimental to our motivation and our encouragement is we get hurt, or we have a small strain, or the stresses of other things in our lives or whatever, and then we just kind of push the martial arts to the side, or we feel like we compare ourselves. Oh, look, this person's better than me. That's not fair. They're younger or they're older.
Yep.
I can't believe this. Or like just shut up.
Yeah.
Stop. I even said this in class the other day. I'm not sure if you were there at that point in time, Justin. But I had talked about how maybe it was, I don't know, it was one of the classes we did where we used one hand. Were you there for that class?
I might have been for an early one. Yeah, I think there was one I did.
One-handed strikes and blocks.
Yeah, I believe there was. Yeah, I think there was at least one I did.
Yeah, so I did that for a reason. So we basically just did. I said, okay, we're doing Kempo karate. So put one hand in your belt, or behind your back, and only use your right hand, for example, against random attack. Okay. And all you have is just pretend you don't have an arm, right? And then we did with the opposite arm, And then I said, look, you can do this with no arms. You have to use your feet, though. Well, why did I do it? Well, because I explained to people, we have two arms, and there's people out there that have one arm, or one hand, or no arms, or they're missing both legs and all they have is arms. Or they're disabled in somehow, in some way that they can't utilize all the functions of the average human being, right? You see where I'm going?
Yep.
They have a, they're not completely able-bodied like most of the people are in this world, especially the people in my classes.
Right.
Or maybe you're older, maybe you're too young, maybe you have energy, maybe you don't, maybe you have this going on in your life, maybe you don't. Right?
Yep.
So the whole thing is we all have our stuff going on, right? Maybe we're injured, maybe we're not.
Yeah.
But making excuses up as to why you can't do your martial arts or be good at your martial arts, whatever it is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of it.
Bottom line.
My first month in, I got my arm overextended and my elbow popped. You know what I mean? It wasn't like broken. It wasn't anything crazy.
But you feel it. It's sore.
But I didn't go home and go, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be a little wuss like that.
That's why you read the waivers.
But people do that.
They do.
And people focus more on finding excuses not to do something.
Right.
Instead of finding an excuse to do something.
Well, it's the same reason. The very obvious point is, I say it this way because this is a common problem, and it is people just when they get in, they don't realize. And I remember joking with one of the other students because he's been there for a little bit now, but I even said to him, we'll see if you're still here, jokingly. But the reality is, a lot of times when people are there, you start getting into it further, and you realize, oh, this is getting so much harder. Whether that's just the training in general, or you're moving up in the rank level there. You find that it's not as easy peasy as you really would think. So I think that's a big part of that problem as well, which we're going to actually want to elaborate on that. But let's take a short pause here because we're actually going to time out here on our Zoom call. So we'll come back, you guys. Plenty more to talk about. We'll play a quick commercial. We'll get Ramsey back in here. We're going to reset the clock. We're going to pick up right where we left off here, so make sure you guys don't go away. But if you need a good restroom break or you want to grab a snack in between, now's the time to do it. And then come on back from where we're back here into the martial arts. We're talking with Ramsey Veitch, talking about the styles of training that we do, and talking about just understanding the experience of learning in today's episode about the difference between being the student and becoming the teacher and how that changes. And we're also going to get further into it later on about the business side and what Ramsey's learned from not only just being a student that shows up and pays dues and comes to class. Now he is the man that runs the show and is the one that pays the rent and pays for the space available and what that's all about. So we'll come back to that, you guys, and plenty more yet here on the What's Up Bro podcast show, Into the Martial Arts World with Ramsey Veitch. We'll see you guys shortly here. Come on back for more. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned.
Hey there, do you love podcasts? Are you having difficulty finding the right ones to listen to? Is it frustrating when you're trying to pick that show? You know, the one where everyone must collectively agree on? Like finding a good movie or TV show to watch, do you look for the most jam-packed entertainment that's possible to find in a single episode every week? Then search no more, and welcome to J&J Production Studios. It's our business to provide the best entertainment and information available for you. Whether you're sitting in that comfy chair with your favorite snack and beverage listening live each week, or downloading your favorite show episodes to take with you on the go while you're at work, exercising, or even just to play at night for you to fall asleep to. There's something for everyone, no matter what size, shape, or age you are. Visit www.linktree.com/J_J Production Studios to find all the streaming services where our podcast shows can be found. You can also connect with us on your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter. You can join our public Discord server and chat directly with us. But wait, there's more. You can subscribe to our official YouTube channel and be notified every time a new show is broadcast. Wish you could have some studio souvenirs or collectibles? Guess what? You can. Visit the official store where you can purchase items featuring your favorite podcast and show hosts. Would you like to help support us? You can do that by getting your very own exclusive membership on our Patreon account. All proceeds go to help us upgrade our shows, which will only enhance the entertainment provided to you. Thank you so much. We're excited to have you as an audience. Your love and support are always appreciated. We'll see you soon.
Break time is over. We're so glad you stayed tuned. Now back to the action as the show is set to resume.
All right, welcome back, everybody. If you're just tuning in, welcome, or actually rather listening to this episode, because if you didn't notice, this is a pre-recorded episode. We are on a break. We were trying to get this episode up for you guys so we could try to cram out as much fun entertainment as possible. We are here with our good friend Ramsey Veitch of Impulse Martial Arts. We're talking all kinds of fun stuff. We're jumping back into the martial arts world. We're talking about a couple different things. We're talking about, before the break, actually, before we had to get sort of rudely interrupted because of our software system, if I can speak today, that we have there was running out. We may eventually upgrade this, but we don't utilize it a whole lot, so it's not a focal point for upgrading, but we might do that in the future. But we were talking a little bit about motivation, and as far as, sharing how some students, when things get difficult and, they're finding ways to give up and quit. And one of the other things that you mentioned about mentality, and I wanted to bring this up too, because this is one that I utilize, and I've done this specifically. It became more of a second nature when I started testing for rank promotion and moving up. I found it very beneficial. So the first things, we talk about the outside stuff that gets in the way. We all have troubles and things that concern us and worry us. One of the things I always tell students especially when they talk to me, ask for advice, and I've had this question asked about me for advice before, was how preparing for a test, what to expect there, what are you going to do, what are you going to run into. And the common thing I typically tell people is, which usually is, again, this doesn't always apply in all instances, but it does happen quite a bit, and that's the notion of, if you're going into a test, tell yourself the expectation is, I'm going to fail. And it's fun to watch people's reaction, because right away they're looking at you like, huh, what? Like, what are you talking about? Well, think about it. If you go in already right off the bat, you're nervous about the test right off front, or just about the training, maybe it's something that's coming up and like, I'm not good at this part in training and I'm going to get it wrong, then you're going to get it wrong. Expect that that's going to happen, Expect that there will be correction because that's just part of the process. And, it's really just get yourself out of your head, because that's a killer. It's an old adage, an old saying, but if you get too much in your head, you lose the battle. The war's already over if you lose the battle in your mind. So, and I go back because I've seen it time and time again, different students, different styles that we've done, whether it's Aikido or Kempo or Jiu-Jitsu or sword or whatever. It's the same basic concept of people putting pressure on themselves and worrying about pass or fail. So easiest way to take the pressure off is just expect to fail. Because if you do that, then you take that burden off of you. And I find myself, and I speak from experience, that when I do that, I actually do a lot better than I think, because the knowledge is there, and it's up to your instructor. The instructor is going to help guide you when they know you're ready to test, even if you don't know you're ready. That's sort of the advice that I gave, because I've grilled about these questions before. So I think that's another key element that people need to really work on, especially if you're thinking of training and if you're in it for a longer haul and in it long term. That's very important to get that in your mindset there. I think that's going to be a huge difference maker in the long run. In the short term, no matter what style you're doing, what you're working on, if you're doing several things, it just takes the pressure off, and there shouldn't be pressure there. Now, I say that because, and Ramsey knows this coming from that same background there was always that pressure to perform where you felt like you're under the microscope, like constantly. And in some regards, it wasn't a bad thing, but more cases, more often than not, it was quite nerve-wracking. So, doing that can be just a gut punch. It kills you. And, I say this because I use this example where when I took my driving test, for instance, when I got my driver's license, it took me 2 tries to get my driver's license because I completely panicked on the first attempt. Everything that was done by the book, I did it wrong and completely flunked in spectacular fashion. Just like you wouldn't believe. So the second time going back, I had to wait a few weeks. I think it was actually about a month or so. When I went back, I cleared my mind out, went into it, totally relaxed, no pressure, because I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to fail, and I have to wait and take it again. Came in, aced the test the second time. The ironic thing was, the instructor that I had was actually the same instructor I had the first time, and she even is like, I don't know what you did differently, but you aced it this time. And I said, well, I wasn't nervous this time. So I think it was just getting caught up in that moment. So I feel like that's really an important element there, which, I'm not sure if you agree with that or not there. I'm sure to some extent, and you have your own notions for that. But the concept of going in there and telling students, regardless, even at rank level, I mean, it's good for beginners especially, but just go in with that mindset you're going to fail. If you do fail, you can always retake the test. You can always try again. Failure is part of learning. I always said, too, is whenever I actually look forward to some failures because I could learn what I did wrong and what I could do better with. It wasn't that, oh, well, you failed and you're horrible at it. It's just, you just made a mistake here, correct this. It's the first thing, and I always wrote down my corrections for mistakes. That was huge for me as well. So, but I think that's another important aspect to that, which can be beneficial for any student, really, rather, and even for teachers too. I mean, because everybody's got, it's kind of part of our society and our life where we're always trying to reach that next level. So that's just, I feel, is really important and has significant impact there. But not everybody might not feel the same way, but that's just usually the best advice I give. So yeah, that's always important there. Let's see, where else did we cover here? I think there was another point we were going to go over with that with Ramsey there. Actually, Ramsey's got camera off. Oh, there we go. There you are. was there anything else that you could add to that, or you feel like was important as far as that I guess?
No, that's fine. I'm right there with you. There's many ways to approach testing and stuff, and usually one of the methods that I've learned is testing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before or during your training.
Big part of it.
When I meet up with my teacher, or when I was doing more regular testing in the different arts and stuff, I would just test the crap out of myself, and that would give me the confidence I need. It didn't mean I've aced tests and stuff like that. I would still miss things, forget things. You're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best tests are the ones that you are thrown at you randomly. Being prepared for a test, like you had said, isn't always the best.
No.
So the anxiety, the anticipation of
is worse.
Of failure is worse than failure itself. I mean, it's just horrible.
Well, it's hysterical too, because when you mention that, and that's why I think of one particular test, which I'll never forget because I still laugh about it to this day. I remember testing back at the old school, and I was at that level where I had to do the what do you call it, the written portion, if you will. I had to go through terminology and all that sort of stuff, and the basics, this and that, yada yada, which I passed that. And then our teacher said to me, well, okay, so the only thing left is what we have the self-defense line and going through the practical, like applying it. So that's kind of like the driving portion of the test. And he said to me, we'll try to do it, maybe during this was, I think, like a Thursday night. And he said, we'll try to shoot something for like the next week because we need enough students to be in class. And, Monday nights were usually pretty well jam-packed. I said, all right, no problem. I was still coming out Saturday morning because the sword classes were early and I was there. And I always stayed, for the 9 a.m. was the Aikido class, which I stayed for. And I'll never forget this because this is talk about not being prepared. I didn't sleep well that Friday night. I just couldn't, and I had to work early. I worked butt fuck o'clock in the morning, and I had to race to get out there, which I did. And I came for the sword class, and then I stayed for the Aikido class, and we started with just some classical stuff just to kind of warm up. And I remember our teacher came over to me, and I was working with someone and asked me he asked me how things were, what I was working on, if I needed help with anything, which I didn't. And he said to me, he goes, oh, we still have your self-defense line to do, right? I said, well, yeah, we have to. So he goes, and I'm thinking there going, oh my God, no, not today. You gotta be shitting me, for real here. I'm sleep deprived. I'm exhausted. And the test, I knew it was going to last at least, I think it was about 40 to 45 minutes, which included the randori portion, which I absolutely fear for that one. I could barely stand up. I was debating leaving. And sure enough, he halts the class, gets everybody there, and says, for the rest of this class, we're going to do this self-defense line. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Now? I'm literally, I didn't have much for breakfast. I didn't sleep well. I'm tired. I can still feel, the bags under my eyes. And you want me to stand out here for 40 to 45 minutes to do this, which I did. Oh, Lord, just a single one-on-one, and then the last portion of it felt like eternity was the randori, where I nearly passed out. I nearly puked. So talk about not being prepared, but the worst possible. But what's funny about that is, and this is why I share this for you guys. Ramsey probably has more stories because you did a lot more, but I found it beneficial because we talk about it all the time training-wise. There's not a moment where you're going to be prepared for something to happen, right? So you can't just sit there and say, okay, well, someone's going to pull a knife. Just give me a minute to stretch and warm up so I'm ready to go. It could be, we did that drill the other night when I actually liked that, with the Kempo class, doing the walking where we're all walking kind of stagnated, in a mall setting where you're just kind of, passing, and you don't know who's going to attack. You don't know who. That's sort of the scenario that you want it to be because that's realistic, right? So the other question is, which makes me think of this also, is do you find people, or do you have to help people understand when they come? Let's say that if it's somebody new or trying it out, expectation-wise is, if you want this to be genuine and you want this to be something beneficial for you, you need to treat it like it's a real-life scenario. Doesn't mean you have to kill yourself or you have to go 100 miles an hour, but it shouldn't be sloppy. It shouldn't be lazy, as you aforementioned. That it should be realistic enough that. I remember you even said the other night, if you get hit, you get hit, and I've been there too. You take your punches, and the student I was working with, he's usually very timid. I don't want to hit you. It's fine. Like, I've been hit before. If I mess up, it's my fault. That's the understanding. But you kind of have like those sort of apprehensive, like, well, I want to do this, but I don't want to get hit, or I don't want to. The expectation is this is going to be soft. This is not going to be like. How do you set people straight, I guess, is a better mention that when, regardless of what art it is, you're understanding, like, you want this to be real, this is what you're looking for. If you're not looking for that, I can't help you. How do you find that when you differentiate between students? If you do.
Yeah, I'm not sure I look for that too much. In regards to getting hit or getting that whole surprise attack idea down. I mean, I think it's super vital in your martial arts training to undergo that little bit of stress.
Right.
It's in a very safe environment, and if you get hit, you get hit, like you said. I try to hit it all the time. If you can't handle a hit in here, you can't handle
outside
this little bit of training in the dojo, and you're here for self-defense, then you might as well leave now, because you're not going to be you're not going to be able to handle the stress out there. You're gonna get hit. You're gonna be crying like a little baby and going, please don't hurt me. And it's like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing necessarily. It is what it is. I'm just saying that depending on your ulterior motives, like if you're here to defend yourself or to get better, get some discipline. If you get punched, you get punched. I've been, I'm a certain person. Like I have my own height and weight and shape and speed and dexterity and agility. I have all my own particular attributes or lack of thereof.
Right.
And if I get hit, yeah, it's not going to be fun, but whatever. I've had my chin busted open. I've had sprains that lasted 2 years. I've hurt myself in the stupidest ways and in the coolest of ways. But by no means am I worried about getting hit. If I get hit, I'm just like, you better hope that it does something physiological to me, because if it doesn't, I'm probably going to be defending myself.
Yeah.
Thereafter, and that's what it's all about. It's just about learning how to stay in control. Because if you're not in control of yourself, then the other person probably is.
Yeah.
Right. Some people do martial arts purely as a meditative or just physical activity, which is totally fine. But again, you're talking about throwing punches at each other.
Yeah. And
you're there to learn new things, and learning how to recognize patterns or body movements, social cues, pre-fight indicators, all this stuff, distancing.
Yep.
That comes along with the territory, no matter what you're there for. If you're not there for any of that, go learn some Tai Chi. Go learn something where they don't spar. That's totally fine, but that's almost every martial art now. So
go learn dance fighting.
We have one of my students, and one of your co-students is like, I don't know, 69 years old or 68, whatever,
he's up
whatever
there.
he is. And I hit him in the eye the other day with my freaking elbow, and he's bruised. He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy.
But he's there.
He's a tough guy, but at no point in time did he say, "Oh, I'm going to sit out for a little bit." No, he's like, "Oh well, keep going." I'm like, you know what? And you have, like I said before, with the arm tied down, you're only dealing with one arm or whatever.
Maybe one eye. You can't see.
Like, just deal with it, people. Yeah. Deal with it. Unless you're bleeding, or unless you're at risk for further injury. If his eye swelled up,
that's one thing.
Say, go to the hospital, or let's ice it. Whatever. But unless there's something like super bad that happened, just shake it off and keep moving forward. If you just sit down and bend at every instance.
You don't get anywhere.
Where something bad happens.
Yeah.
You know, like what are you teaching yourself? You're teaching yourself how to be submissive, and that's
the wrong idea.
That's not what martial arts teaches in almost any form.
And we said it before, like, think about it. If it's a real life situation, maybe you get jumped in the parking lot or at the gas station or at the grocery store. If it's a real fight situation, somebody who's attacking you is not going to care what you're, even if you're laying there maybe bleeding a little bit. If it's your life or death, you got to either keep going or you're going to die.
Hey, excuse me, do you mind handing over your purse? I really don't want to fight you. You look like you're really tired. I know it's been a long day at work. Can you just please put your purse on the ground?
That'd be
really
great.
Like
That'd be
I
wonderful.
Don't think you're ready. I just don't think you're ready for a fight.
And I'm a nice guy. I don't want to have to pull my knife or my gun on you. So if you just give it to me,
they're gonna run up and push you against the car, and then shove a knife in your back, like
maybe even sucker punch you. Like if anything could happen. So it's like
Again, though, differences between self-defense and martial arts. Training. But like martial arts training, we're not there to learn how to fight necessarily. We're not there to learn self-defense necessarily. But those are definitely byproducts to learning martial arts, and you want to have that same attribute, building mentality, to just keep moving forward for sure.
And do it like you mean it, and if same thing we talked about. Anything else? If you're going to commit to it, you put time and effort into it, then it should have the reward of you see the benefits because you're actively training or working hard at it or whatever the case is. There should be some growth to it because you're trying to put effort towards it. So I think that's really important there. Now
and then
go ahead. No, go ahead. No,
I was gonna touch a little more on the testing part.
Yeah, go ahead.
So part of the student becomes the teacher thing is realizing one of the things that you have to get wind of is how to promote and what to look for from a standardization concept within the martial arts that you're teaching. So, are you teaching certain standards? Are you expecting certain standards? Are you setting the bar at a certain level for each individual belt, for each rank, and for each person? There's so many things that students, pure students, just don't take into account. From a teaching perspective. And one of those is, okay, well, is this person ready for a test or are they not?
Right.
What standards or criteria are you using to test this person? And for example, not everybody can be tested the same way. Okay, everybody has maybe limitations. Maybe they have physical limitations, mental limitations. Maybe their background is a little different. Okay. Maybe that causes them to test later or sooner than somebody else who started at the same time as them. Maybe mentally they're getting it, but physically they're not, or vice versa. They have this, they have that. So you have to find a balance as the instructor to say, you know what, based on my overall criteria, you are worth this belt rank. You are worth the next belt rank because you're progressing. You're on the right path, and at least this, and this.
Sure.
And I see. I get questions sometimes, which is totally fine because I would never question my teacher because he made it clear that he doesn't want to be challenged. However, I like to be candid, and I want everybody to be candid with me. I might not agree, but I also think that if I can't explain myself, maybe I shouldn't be doing or teaching something.
Yeah, you want that dialogue to be at least open back and forth to have that connectivity.
And that's what I want because then a student can learn. For example, when you have two people testing at the same time, right? Yeah, you have two people testing, but they look different. They're testing the same information for the same curriculum, the same rank, but they're performing differently.
Right.
How do you say, well, this person gets a blue belt, but this one doesn't? Now, you can if one totally fails, right?
Sure, of course.
However, the teacher's job is to say, you know what? Yes, initially they appear to be different skill sets or what have you, but let's see why that might be.
Sure.
All right, and let's see if that why is a true detriment to their actually getting promoted.
Right.
So maybe you're not as fast as the other person, right? Maybe you move slower than the other person. Maybe you can't move as good as the other person, right?
That's true.
Maybe the other person, was only doing it 6 months less than you. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what the reasons are, right? But maybe they're just getting it, and they're not perfect yet, obviously.
Right.
But they're getting it. Okay, here you go. I think you're working your ass off. Here's this belt. So I use that kind of criteria for the first rank of any martial art. Usually, you meet the basic curriculum, and then you say, okay, look, I got the gist of it. Right. I'm understanding. I want basic understanding of, okay, here's the curriculum, and this is what you want from me.
Sure.
Overall, and then from a physical and a mental standpoint, I understand the terminology for the most part, and because it's another language.
Right. Yep.
And then I'm getting the idea of all these brand new physical movements down from coming in not knowing anything.
Right.
So if you consider, well, you know what, I'm 50 years old and I'm coming into a brand new martial art. I'm learning how to do things that I've never done before in my life. So it's like you're taking 50 years of your life and you're retraining yourself how to walk or
basically,
how to run, for example, right?
Yep.
And so try learning how to run differently. That's going to be very, very difficult. So I'm taking that into account. I'm going to say, hey, look, this guy's 20 years old. He can get it a little faster than this 50 or 60-year-old person. That's just natural.
Yep.
And they're going to look different. They're going to move different. So some people, especially students, and I've had some students ask me about this when other people were testing, and it's like, yes, but I passed them both because where this person lacked, this person was strong. And where this person was lacking, this person was strong.
Yep.
And they're getting it. And these are both, this is both like an initial ranking. So, when it comes time for you to graduate into instructorship and start promoting people potentially or whatever, when you just want to get more information about promoting people, take all this stuff into account because it matters. If you're 40 years old and you're in great effing shape,
sure,
right? And then you go into a test with somebody who's 20 in great effing shape, they're going to outshine you, assuming they know everything. They're going to outshine the crap out of you. Does that mean that you don't deserve that same rank? No, it just means you deserve it in a different way.
Right.
Otherwise, how could a 70-year-old person get a black belt in jiu-jitsu?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
It's unheard of, because if I held a 70-year-old to the same standards as a 25-year-old,
won't happen.
Guess what? The 25-year-old's going to wipe him off the mat.
Not close.
Because he's 25 versus 70.
That's the only difference.
He's going to outshine him in so many ways. You're not going to see a 70-year-old guy doing flying arm bars. Now, you might get an outlier. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But so ranking people is more about progression, knowledge, wisdom, enthusiasm, all this stuff. There's so much that goes into it than just I know what I'm talking about, or I'm good at what I do. Yeah. Right. Like I can do all the techniques. Right. I'm awesome. I've seen videos of white belts whipping in like grappling competition, whipping like purple and brown belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so people were like, how is this person still a white belt? Yeah. Well, because they're kicking the shit out of somebody who's 35, like 15 years older than them. And they're young and spunky, and and they're just getting it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you're not going to give a person it'll take an average of 1 to 2 years to get a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. Just from a time perspective, doesn't matter how good you are. Yep. Right off the bat, you know what I mean? Yep. It's just from a time perspective. Now you can get your black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 5 to 6 years. That's been done by very skilled individuals, but not everybody can do that. Those are generally outliers. Yeah. But again, just because they did it in that manner doesn't mean that they're less good or more good than somebody who did it for 10 years and got their black belt.
Exactly.
So all this this is the stuff I learned as an instructor, and I've seen people get promoted to black belt, and the first thing I think of is, hold on a second, how did this person get the black belt?
Yep.
Because they first of all, they don't know any of the terminology, they're horrible at it, and they could barely do a side kick.
Yeah,
and their test was pathetic. How did this person get a black belt, right? Again, I couldn't question my teacher about it directly, but still looking back on it 10 years later,
I do too.
No, this person still does not, but turns out the guy was getting like some sort of like health issues and all that, and I think it was more of a pity black belt.
Kind of like a pass, you just gave it to him because of that.
But
well,
he as nice as much as I like the guy, he did not deserve the black belt, but that wasn't my place to tell him. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So people can do whatever they want, but that takes us back to standardization in the martial arts. The rank that you're promoted into is going to solely depend on whoever is promoting you.
That's
and that
the core
standard is going to
concept.
be different for everybody. So
Yep.
My black belt's not going to, my black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu is not going to perform like a black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu from another teacher.
Right.
They might perform worse. They might perform better. Right.
Or even a different art.
It doesn't matter. They might perform the same. I have no idea. Either way, I'm confident that when I promote somebody to a rank, that they at least know
competently enough that they're
confident what they're doing. Not even from a self-defense perspective, just from a knowledge perspective. I want my students to be able to talk about this, to be able to demonstrate it, and say, hey, look, so that's the criteria I start looking for after the first rank. I start saying, hey, look, now we're past all the baby steps. We're past the learning how to walk.
You're not crawling anymore.
How to run.
Yep.
And now we're going to learn how to walk correctly. Okay.
Yep.
So this is what I want to see from now on. I want to see this and that, and I want you to put a little more effort or tenacity into this. I want to see a little more technicality on all the techniques that you just So I want to see your first rank requirements to be done so much better. Right.
Because you should be growing.
So if you're testing for your next rank, right,
you should increase and get better, and should be more. Yep.
Your first rank stuff, I want to see that clean and crisp. I want to see that getting better and better. I want to see improvement. Doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. I just want to notice
signs of improvement, something. Yeah.
And and I'll be able to physically look at you and visually tell, okay, this person's really, really cleaned that up a lot. Awesome.
Or not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or not. And my whole thing is I don't want my students to test if I think they're going to fail, because I watch you guys every single day. I know what you're capable of. I know if you're going to pass the test or not.
Right.
And that's so that you don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to test, I'm more than happy to. But I will be candid with it and say, hey, look,
doesn't guarantee.
I don't think you're ready for testing yet.
Yeah.
But most people don't want to test because again, fate of failure, like you said.
Yeah.
So they're pretty unconfident. So I wanna make sure that they.
Or like the thing that's nice is I've noticed, I've been a part of these and I know we've had them, but when you are not the testee but you're the participant, and so like a lot of times, I just realized that too. That's a good one. That's okay. No, that's a good one. I just realized that. But I think that's the other thing that causes students to be cautious too is, like I've been a part of black belt tests where I've been participating to help someone else there, but seeing like when you are on, I call it the outside looking in, because you're not the person testing, you're just there to give the bodies, to give the fight, to give the simulation, all that kind of stuff. But you sit there and think to yourself, at some point that's going to be me. So I think that's another area, but again, it's all beneficial, it's all worth it, and I think for anybody, and this goes for a lot of you guys, if you're considering testing and training, you should keep this in mind, and big thing, like you said, bottom line point is trust your instructor, because they know what they're looking for, and they know you better than you do, and they'll be able to tell you, like Ramsey said, you're being honest about it. If it's not a knock on the individual, it's just not time for you yet, or I want to see more first, or really that confidence. Like, you just show a level of confidence there, which there's nothing wrong with that. I've always said, it was my thing too, is I want to test, I want to move up, but I don't want to be rushed into it. Like I said, Earl teacher, and I've seen it too. Some students that were ranking up along with me and that I knew, I could sit there going, why did they get that rank level? Because I remember vividly once or twice, a couple of guys like were doing techniques, and I'm like, if you're at the same level I am, you should be able to do this technique as I can do it. They're not able to do it. Well, then how did you get to this rank level? So I always said, I don't want to be promoted by, like, from just a McSession of a McDojo promotion. I want to make sure that I'm confident and that I can demonstrate that and I can overcome myself, because myself, everybody, we're the biggest obstacle. We have that that mentality of we are our own biggest critics, right? So I think that's all part of it. I put that in with my training, and I tell myself, I'm here to better myself. I'm not worried about anybody else. I want to be better, and I want to make sure I'm growing, and I look forward to the corrections and mistakes, just because I can realize there's some things that I don't see, that, like you always say, you watch, so you observe that. I can't always see, like, sometimes, like, I know the other night we talked about a couple of the corrections, and I caught myself on a couple when you mentioned that. I'm like, yeah, I just realized I did that. I wasn't thinking about that. So it's all important part of the process, but I think that's a great way to emphasize the teacher's role there. And obviously, for Ramsey, you've been doing this for a while too, so you've learned a few things just from trial and error and from going through the whole process yourself. So that's also really important. But that's a huge note for anybody, whether you're a first-time trainer, whether you've been training for a while. Use this in your own discretion there, but always take the information as a positive. Don't see corrections as a negative. Just trust your instructor. They've been doing it. They've been training with you. They know you, and they want what's best for you. They want you to grow when you're ready to grow. And if it's not time, they're not saying, I'm not holding you back for any other reason. It's just you need a little bit more time to do that. So those are very good points. Awesome there for that. We're going to take another pause here, and then we're going to come into our last segment here, Ramsey. We're going to talk about the ownership of a dojo. A lot of people don't realize this. It's not all glitz and glamour, and it's not always the guys wearing the fancy costumes and the belts and all that kind of great stuff. It also comes down to being a business owner, paying the rent, paying bills, electricity, everything that runs a typical school like a business owner. We're going to talk about that next. Hope you guys are enjoying our little trip into the martial arts world. It's great to be back here having Ramsey talk with us. We're going to talk more about what it's like for him as a business owner and see what the challenges are, pros and cons, what he's learned, what he would do differently, what he hasn't done differently, what he likes, all that great stuff. So stick around, stay tuned for more here at the What's Up Bro podcast show, brought to you by the one and only J&J Production Studios, your true home for entertainment. Of course, we guys, as you know, we're on a break there, but we'll be back soon. Stick around for more there. And actually, we're going to be back soon. We're going to be back from vacation. I'll be back for some live shows, and we'll see you guys back here as well. Hopefully, you'll enjoy this little bit of entertainment just for you all, because we appreciate you guys so much. We love you all. We want to make sure that the content always is flowing and that there is something there for everybody. So let's take a pause here. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk more with Ramsey into the martial arts world. Perfect time for a bathroom or snack break. Go for that. We'll be back momentarily. Stay tuned for more. You do not want to miss it. Of course, as always, you can catch up on these episodes. All the other Impulse episodes that we've done from Impulse Martial Arts into the martial arts world are available. You can go back and catch up with the series if you want to listen to it as well. You can do that. Stick around, guys. Stay tuned for more. We'll be right back to talk here into the martial arts world. See you in a few.
Hey audio fans, are you looking for fun and excitement? Have you been searching for that special show? You know, the one complete package you want in a podcast? Then check out the What's Up Bro podcast show and experience what true entertainment is all about. Stay tuned and don't miss the action. Available on your favorite streaming services, including YouTube. Thank you for all your support. And as always, we'll see you at the show.
We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back to the show with more in just a moment. Please stay tuned. Break time is over. We're so glad you stayed tuned. Now back to the action as the show is set to resume.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just tuning in or if you're listening to this later, because this is a recorded episode, whatever point you're coming in here, hopefully you started the episode at the beginning, which most people typically do, but sometimes everybody kind of skims through and scans, so I kind of get that whole thing. But either way, we're glad you guys are here. We're talking with our good friend Ramsey Veitch of Impulse Martial Arts, where we train regularly, and talking about all kinds of neat things about the teacher, becoming the teacher to the student, the student to the teacher, rather. Of course, it could work both ways, I suppose, in some instances, but a lot about different things there, and about some understanding the ins and outs of what it takes there teacher-wise, especially from training to helping students progress and that kind of great stuff. So one thing we want to cover here, which is going to be the last portion of our segment here, and naturally this is not something that should be at the forefront, but this is important, and this is sort of that pesky everyday life thing that we all focus on, and that's the business side of it. So now we're going to look at, from Ramsey, not just as the teacher, which is great, but that burden, that belt comes with the responsibility of now you have a business to run too, because obviously you want to have your own school, need your own space, pay for the utilities, everything that comes along with that fun part of entrepreneurship when you run a business there. So we're going to touch on that, and I guess the simplest way, because there's a lot of things we can get to there, but we're going to keep on a simple track. So let's go back to, we know that obviously you had, after so much time you spent there, had broke away from the old school and moved on your own there and decided that you wanted to open up your own school and do that, and you started that process, and I know it was slow going forward from where it was at the beginning to where it is now. So what is it like, though, when you take those steps, when you start out, and obviously you have ideas, but it's putting them into practice and putting them into play and finding the right establishments or the right spaces, finding the right to advertisement, even most importantly, finding a student base, because obviously the business is based upon ideally having the students cover the cost too coming in. So what are, if we go through that, what are some pros and cons of that? What have you learned as that business owner, especially in a better place, because obviously now things have picked up. It was not so much in the beginning. So what are some of those cues, if you're going to give, especially if you're telling someone else who's thinking about starting their own business, whether it's their own dojo in school or something else, just what are some of those ins and outs that you found from going from just being that student that pays tuition and shows up at someone else's place to going, oh, these are my keys, this is my place, and when the bills come in, they're in my name. So how has that been a change for you? What have you learned, and what are some good things and bad things about being that small business owner?
Yeah, it's always nerve-wracking when you're starting any kind of business venture. When it's something that you want to do, like martial arts, like if something you love to do, it's really it can be very stressful to get started, just because you want to make sure that it's done right.
Right.
And there's so many things to look at. So obviously, anytime you're going to do something like this, you have to be gung ho about it. You can't just be like, well, maybe I'll do my own martial arts school. I'll maybe I'll find something. Maybe if this happens, this happens. You know. But you gotta just be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. You know, and find that motivation to do it. So when I left my teacher, you know, I left my teacher because of, you know, very personal reasons relating to him and that how he was teaching, and I just wasn't comfortable learning under him anymore.
Same.
And especially being within the organization that he's with. So I'm kind of anti-organization, which is the same for a lot of martial artists these days. So I kind of got my own thing, and I the whole point of doing martial arts is to learn everything you want to or can to create your own style. And you know, there's only so many styles, there's only so many ways to look and to perform these kinds of techniques. But everybody's got different backgrounds and different martial arts under their belt, different lengths of time, so they have different styles, if you will. But that's the whole goal, is to make your own of it. And Bruce Lee kind of phrased it in a way similar to that. You know, just make it your own. You know, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, but make it your own. And what you're gonna, and that's what he taught. I mean, he learned bits and pieces of a bunch of things, but he knew a lot of boxing. He knew a lot of, you know, Kung Fu and Wing Chun. And he put it all together. He made it his own. That's why he invented, you know, Jeet Kune Do, because he made it his own. Jeet Kune Do is nothing special by any means. It's not anything new. There's nothing new.
That's what he said himself.
There's nothing new about the concepts or the techniques.
All coming together.
It's just a conglomeration of other things that he learned and that
adopted.
He combined. And he wanted to. And that's what he thought and was, you know, perceived as effective. That worked for him at his time period. So that's Jeet Kune Do for you, you know, in a nutshell. Has Jeet Kune Do expanded since then? I'm sure it has.
Probably. Right?
Every martial art is due to evolve. So, and he was a big, you know, proponent of that. So when we're going into this, you know, I'm going to start my own dojo thing. It's definitely a change, because you're going to be doing this like a business potentially. Now, I left my instructor, and I've always had the intentions of getting my own place and teaching my own students and doing this and doing that. But what really started to drive me was the necessity for opening my school. So I've always had it in the back of my mind for years. Okay, I want to find my own place. I want to do this. There was two things holding me back. One, I didn't have a need for it, because I was teaching at my teacher school. I was attending martial arts classes regularly. I didn't need to open up my own school. You know, I didn't need it for income purposes or anything like that. You know, so I wasn't looking for opportunities. I wasn't taking opportunities. I was just lackadaisical about it. And then when I left him, I didn't leave him knowing that, oh, I'm just going to open my own school. Right? I left him for purely righteous reasons on my own end, not because, oh, I want to be apart from this.
No.
I actually gave him opportunities to keep me in the organization, and we kind of explored that a tiny bit, but it obviously never happened. So, you know, having my students being forced to be under their rule, if you will, was just not in my playbook. I did not want that to happen in any way whatsoever. I decide what my students go through. I just didn't respect the organization or the standards they had.
That's the killer,
And I didn't want that, and so many other people don't want that either.
No.
So oversight is fine, but unless you're going to help me advertise and get a place and do this and do that, I don't want anything to do with you in regards to my dojo.
That's fair.
You know, it's not a Tiger Schulman's. Okay, I'm not. You know, that's what they do. They're a franchise for a reason. Okay. We're not a franchise, so unless you're going to do that, and I couldn't open it within an earshot of his.
That's
dojo.
the other.
So as a
which hampers
you know,
that quite a bit.
quote unquote competition. It's
Yeah.
like it could have been a branch of your dojo if you played your cards right. So that never
There
happened.
you go. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I lucked into a play. I was looking for a place, and I was like, you know, I play volleyball at a local racket center, and and I was suggested, hey, look, there's some space over here, blah blah blah, and I was like, what, really? And I looked, and I was like, oh crap, there's some space in a wrestling room, in the racquetball center. I said, well, sugar, let me go look into that a little bit. So I talked to the people. Wow, okay, so I personally lucked into it, to be upfront.
Sure.
I lucked into it. I was paying $400 a month to rent a room out for, you know, however many nights a week I needed. The other half was going to be used for the wrestling.
Sure.
You know, if we were to, you know, have wrestling and martial arts in the same nights.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was already padded. I didn't have to buy almost any equipment. It was just wonderful. So I lucked into this. Now everybody, if anybody was going to open up their own martial arts studio or business in general, one of the first things you got to do is figure out where you're going to do this from.
Yep.
Is it something you're going to be able to do from your home? Is it something you can legally do from your home? Is it something you can, you know, something you have to rent space out for?
Sure.
Right? And if you can, like, is it going to be a shared space? Is it going to be an affordable space?
Yep.
I got lucky. I got a space that was decked out. It wasn't ideal by any means. It was ugly. It was hard mats.
But it wasn't starting from scratch. You had at least a foundation of sorts to get going.
Right, and but it had everything I needed, and I had almost zero capital going into it. It was just the perfect find, and I lucked out a lot. So I just ran it as is, and just started it. I had a job and everything, so it's no big deal. I'm just running it. I'm having fun. I'm getting students. I'm losing students. I'm signing people up. Some people never sign up.
Yep.
You know, I get referrals. It's just like, it was fine. So I still pride myself in having a small dojo full of dedicated students instead of a big dojo full of people who are going to leave every 5 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, right. So, but yeah, so I lucked into it. However, if that didn't happen and I didn't get that space, you know, I was looking at other kinds of opportunities that I could have done, like renting a space out of, you know, a small strip mall, or doing this or doing that.
Yep.
You know, in hindsight, it's like, wow, I don't know if I ever would have worked out if I had done that. It's tough either way. You know, my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor is finally opening up his own training area, and he, you know, I'm so glad I didn't have to go through all that crap, because it's in a small strip mall, and, you know, rent's higher. Just getting it ready was a big pain in the butt. You know, so you know, luckily he has the means to do that, but I by no means had that kind of capital to throw into it.
Sure.
So I'm glad I didn't have to do any of that. So that's really the hardest part of doing anything. Kind of you know, starting a podcast, or you know, doing a YouTube channel, or starting your own Etsy business. You know, doing your own brick and mortar place, whatever it is, you have to go into it knowing that, man, this is going to take work, and if you look hard enough, hopefully you'll find you'll luck out. You know, you know, but I'm honest with myself and say, you know what, if I never got this space, I don't know if this would have ever worked out.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And if it didn't, I would have just offered myself to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school that I go to. I would have just been like, hey, you think I could just like pay you mat space fee, and I could just like run a couple classes every week, and this and this, you know what I mean? So that was an opportunity. So I mean, just, you know, so you have to be willing to just pursue and ask people what you want. And the worst thing they can do is say no.
At least you asked.
You know, create rapport, create a need, maybe create a you know, just be friendly. I don't know, whatever you have to do. You know, make it financially worthwhile for them, whatever it is. And go from there. So being an instructor and owning the school I got so much so much to handle. Now my bills are rent. That's it. You know what I mean? But not some places you have to pay electricity. You have advertising. You have this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally run things a little more skim than the average dojo will, because I work as well. I have other things to do. So
it's not a full-time
I love my
business
dojo.
thing,
I put a lot of heart and soul into
Absolutely.
my dojo, but I don't put as much in as I could.
Right.
Because I like what we have. And
it's not about capitalizing. But...
Yeah, it's not that I'm afraid to grow. I want to grow, but my main focus is just keeping what I have. I want to make my current students happy. I want to focus on them, make them better, and go from there. So the other thing about having your own school is, okay, well, what am I going to do? Like we talked about testing. What am I going to do to from a scheduling standpoint? I've changed my schedule numerous times over the years.
Yep.
What do I do from a scheduling standpoint? What do I do from a curriculum standpoint?
Yep.
So I spent a lot of time modifying the curriculums that I was raised on to fit how I believed the curriculum could be.
Right.
Okay? And I based it off of other systems as well, So I would reach into, I would look at the curriculums for all these other schools that I can find, or people I would talk to, and then of course my own curriculum that I learned all this stuff through, and I would say, you know what, I think that this, and this should be taught first. This, and this should be taught later, or this should be focused on, or these should be grouped together, or this should be canceled out completely because it's already been done here, or whatever. So I modified my curriculum accordingly, but that took so much.
A lot of time.
It was fun. Don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of effort, and I put a lot of time and reason behind the curriculum as it is today.
Right.
And some people, commit treason. They come over to my dojo, but they still go to the old dojo, and they're like, "Dude, like, I've never learned this before, and I've been there for like 6 years, 7 years." Yeah, that's because you won't learn this until you're a black belt there.
Maybe.
And this is one of the foundational moves and techniques that you learn in judo. Like you learn this in like day 3 of a judo school. You know what I mean? Like my instructor won't teach you because organizationally they don't let you learn a basic move like that until black belt level. And it's just an uncanny thing that they would withhold such a practical move, such a easy practical move from new people. And another reason why I just kind of up and left, it's like a lot of people feel like they were being held back, and that was that. It's like, wait a minute, so I have to wait until I'm a 3rd degree black belt to learn this, and this? Like, I already understand the concept, but I just like what? Wait a minute, you're literally withholding information. I understand. Like, so what I tell my students is, look, I will teach you anything you need to know, okay? But but quality over quantity. However, we'll have a class and you'll learn a technique that you're not gonna need to test on for 3 more belt ranks. I'll show you, a brown belt technique. I'll show you a technique from a curriculum standpoint that is years in the future. I just here you're learning. Here you go. But you don't have to know it for 5 years, because it's going to take until you get to that.
But you start ingraining it a little bit, so it starts to.
But you're exposed to it, so that when you get it done to you or you see it, you're like, oh,
there it is. Yep.
So I will teach all curriculum. Like, so I have in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, I have so much curriculum spread across the belts, and but I will show blue belt techniques to white belts. I will show brown belt techniques to blue belts. I don't care. I'll teach everybody the same techniques, but I just reinforce, look, you don't have to know it, but now you have so much more time to remember it. And hopefully by the time you're brown belt, all these techniques are just great. So one of my
Yep.
students, just got his brown belt, and now he's learning. In the curriculum has like 8 joint locks and like a couple takedowns, right?
Yep.
And plus a bunch of other stuff. But he already knows those like 7 or 8 joint locks
From starting early.
from learning them in Aikido.
Yep.
Now he's learning the jiu-jitsu versions and why they're different in jiu-jitsu, with certain modifications. So he knows how to do them from his prior training. So that's just going to make the requirements come that much easier.
Yeah.
And that's why I did that. So I spent so much time figuring this stuff out with the curriculum. I think it's important to have a structure down.
Definitely.
And you don't have to think about the curriculum right off the bat. Just start with the first rank and just kind of go from there. Feel free to modify them as you move forward. But another thing that keeps people from getting started in anything is, like I said, making excuses as to why they can't start yet, right? So people do it with dieting all the time. People do it with smoking. People do it with stopping things like that, or starting like a house project. I just don't have that drill yet. When I get that drill, I'll start it. Yep. Right? Well, I don't have the time yet. Or maybe this weekend I'll do it. And then you have the time on the weekend, you still don't do it. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, there's another excuse. So they always make excuses again why they do things, or why they don't do things.
Sure.
Instead of excuses why it's more beneficial to just get something done. So this one guy was on. I don't want to take credit for this. I don't get another guy's name. He was doing a TED Talk type speech.
Okay. Yep.
And he was like, he was talking about martial arts. He was like, I have a black belt and a white belt in my hand. He said, which one do you think is harder to get? Right? And he's like, most people say the black belt is really hard to get. It takes years of training, dedication, right? And he said, the white belt's actually the hardest to get because most people never start.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit! I've been doing this for 20 freaking years.
Never realized.
I've never even thought about that.
Yep.
I've always thought that one of the hardest tests would be like your beginning tests, or this, like test wise. But in terms of most people just don't get started.
It's just committing, showing up.
They always figure out a reason why
not to do it.
Why they haven't started going to the gym, or they don't go to the gym.
It's the same thing. Yep.
Or they haven't started or stopped something.
I'll put it off later. And yeah.
So my biggest piece of advice for anybody wanting to do anything is to shut up and just start doing it. Whatever it is, just start doing it.
Don't think, just do.
If you want to learn, a piano, go buy yourself a $50 Casio electric piano, and boom, there you go. You started, okay? And then sit down and start. Watch a YouTube video and start it, right?
Yeah, that's all you need.
Even better, you want to learn the piano, for example, pick up the phone right now, research piano teachers, click on one and say book lesson.
Yep.
And then put it in your calendar and just go.
Yep.
Okay? Pay for it and just go. But if you say, well, schedule and this, just do it.
It'll figure itself out. Yep.
And that's my big thing in life. It's like, just like, you're telling me you want to do this and this. Okay, well then why haven't you started it yet? Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Okay, so just shut up and do it. Otherwise, don't talk to me about what you want unless you're willing to do it.
Yep.
And then if it's not feasible, then stop talking about it. Instead of saying I'm going to or I want to, say I would like to, but it's not feasible.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Then we can still talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, not everything is feasible. Right?
Sure.
I want to learn how to play
honest.
piano, but all I have is feet. Okay, well, I can't help you there. Right? But people with just feet can learn how to play piano too.
Exactly.
For example, but still, it's like it's the same mentality of owning a dojo and stuff. And it's you have to manage everything, and hopefully you get to a position in ownership of any kind of business.
Yep.
To have to be replaced.
Exactly.
The goal is get so busy or so overwhelmed that you need to be replaced. Then you're doing a good job.
Exactly.
So you can't be lazy about it. Just
commit.
Start.
Just do it.
And I'm committed. I'm lazy and I'm procrastinating sometimes about certain things. Yeah. But I started things, and when I started, I'm an X-ray tech.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into the healthcare field, I didn't question that. I decided, you know what, I'm going to get into the health. I want to I want to become an X-ray tech.
Right.
Right. There's a story behind it, but I said I'm going to be an X-ray tech. Okay. I looked up X-ray schools. Boom, application in.
Right away.
Oh, I can't apply it because I don't have these. Okay, fine.
Go back.
Okay.
Get it.
What do I need? Prerequisites. Oh, okay. Boom. Booked. Done. Right.
Yep.
I start going to school.
Yep.
Okay. I apply. Boom.
Yep.
I get in. Fantastic. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
That was it. Like, if you don't apply, you're not going to get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I've been an X-ray tech for God knows how long, whatever it is.
Too long, I can't remember anymore.
You know what I mean? So,
it's the same kind of thing. It transcends.
Start. Yeah. If you want to do them, if martial arts sounds interesting to whoever's listening,
go for it.
Martial arts, just look up your phone right now.
Try it.
Look at a dojo in the area, right?
Yep.
If you have a specific martial art, Google that. If you don't, just say martial arts dojo in the area. Find one,
keep it feasible, that's close.
Go. Just show up and say, you know what, I want to try class. Boom. And you're either gonna love it or hate it. Hopefully you love it. I can't imagine you're gonna hate it, but and if it's not feasible, then don't do it. Just say, look, I would do it, but I have a broken knee.
That's
what I mean, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Whatever your real excuse is.
Exactly.
But yeah, if it's something that bothers you, that I've been on this like mental rampage, more or less the last 6 months, saying, you know what, I'm 40 years old, going on 40 here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be 65 years old. It's 25 years away. I don't want to be 65 years old and be like, you know what, I'm so glad I worked my ass off for 25 more years to retire with only 5 more years to live.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad that I didn't do those martial arts, because man, that would have made me so tired every night. Oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so glad I went on, I did this and I didn't do this.
You don't want to feel that.
I don't want to be 65 years old and look back and say, you know what?
I could have. I wish I would have.
I should have just went to Australia. I should have just done it.
Yep.
I'm not going to go back and be like, you know what? I should have just effing did it, because you know what? Now I'm 65 and I can't do it because I'm just disabled, or I don't have enough money, or now I don't, whatever the reasons are going to be.
Well,
right?
and even we had, I can say an example too, because we had one of the students that's there who I know Ramsey knows well too. I talked to him because he just graduated high school, and we talked a few times, and he said to me, like, I'm trying to figure out, obviously now I'm getting into adulthood and I still want to do martial arts, and what do I do? Just most important thing, like I said to him, is if it's important to you and you want to keep committing to it, and you love doing it, yes, you got to find a different job maybe, or you're going off to college maybe, you're going to have other things piled on. Best thing to do is just prioritize that and say, look, martial arts training is still a priority for me. If you do that, when you put together your schedule more or less, things might shift now and again. It's just a natural part of life. But if it's that important to you and you make the time for it, it will be there, and things will adjust to accommodate you. The question you have to ask yourself is it that important to you? Because if it's not, same exact reason, if you're just going to do it or not do it, then it's going to fall by the wayside anyway. So you have to just
don't do it.
Yeah, just don't do it. So if you said to him, if it's important, which I feel it is, and you're training hard, then don't worry about so much the figuring out how's the schedule. Just look at it down, and just if it'll fall into place, and as long as you have to ask yourself, importantly, do I still want to commit to it? Do I still enjoy doing it? Am I willing to put time into it? If you answer some of those type of questions, the answers will be easy enough. You can make it work. So that's really same thing. But for anybody, if you guys listening too, you may have been listening for this entire series so far, and kind of the advice, that's why we talk about it, is to get you guys encouraged. There is try something different, and even if it's not martial arts per se, if it's something that I've shared this, we talked about this last couple of weekends, especially for our summertime episodes, and that's find something that you enjoy doing, and just make this year the best year yet. Make this a chance of, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to try something. I'm going to try something new. Maybe you'll find a brand new love for something that you never had before, but at least have the initiative to give it your best and give it your all effort. And that's all anybody can ask for. And then, like Ramsey said too, you don't have to look back, and you don't have to think, gee, I should have done that. Try. It's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. That's Theodore Roosevelt's quote. One of my favorites because it's important. I'd rather try knowing I tried it, and at least I gave my best efforts, and it was, what it was. But if you guys want to, if you're local, and you can check it out, check out the website, impulsemartialarts.com. All kinds of fun stuff there. You can check out the blog with some great journal entries there. See the different styles offered there. If you're in the area in Pennsylvania, Easton, Pennsylvania, 3738 Northwood Avenue, Easton, PA, 18042. I almost said the wrong. I said my home, my zip code. That's the wrong one. Come out, check it out. Northwood Racket and Fitness Center in Easton. You can find it. There's signs out there. Come try a class there. Come check it out. Classes run during the week. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursday nights are adult classes there. Kids classes are also available for up to 13? I think is up to the age.
Yeah, it's like 7 to 13.
Yeah, so if you have children, you can come bring them. Even if you want to bring your child up to try a class and you want to stay for an adult class, you're welcome to do that. There's plenty to choose from. There's also some special events you can check out the seminar section on the page. Sometimes some special instructors, like we've talked about Kenny Bigby Jr. coming out. We've done some close combat tactics type of training. So those are some neat things you guys can come and find out, sign up. Definitely let them know if you're listening to the show or you've been a listener. Let us know that. We'd love to hear that. I'd love to see you there. Come train firsthand. Get that experience. Learn something new. Maybe you'll find something new that you'll love and that you'll become part of our family there, and we'd love to have you guys there. So come and check it out. Always open. It's a cult. If you sign up, you sign up in blood, so there's no escape. So
that's right. It's a cult. We drink Kool-Aid every night.
That's a little disclaimer. Once you're in, I was going to wait and hold off. I don't want to scare people right away.
I used to say family all the time, and then I got hell for it. Oh, it's not family. You're not Vin Diesel. I was like, oh, okay, fine. It's a cult.
Okay. Or we could say we're just a fraternity. There's another reference for that, too. So, although there's no beer handy usually, but that you kind of get the point there. But either way, we'd love to have you guys come out and check it out. Come see Sensei Veitch teach out there. He'll be there. We'll see me. I'll be out there. A lot of the other friends that we have and our other classmates that come out. So come check it out. Come train with us. Try it. If you like it, come, and we'd love to have you stay. So whatever works for you guys, you can check it out there. But all kinds of neat stuff there. Check out the website, impulsemartialarts.com. So glad to have Ramsey back to another episode here. Can't wait to do another episode. We'll have one coming up again. Hope you guys love that. Make sure you let us know if you want to send us emails. Hit us up on social media. You can also like this video and leave a comment on the YouTube channel if you're listening to it there. We'll definitely work out a schedule to have Ramsey come back. But thank you so much again. Of course, as always, it's a pleasure to have you join us. We're so grateful you. I know it's a busy schedule, so we tried to coordinate this, and it worked out. We're able to record this for you guys. This episode will be up soon. You guys can check it out, and we'll have more in the future. So, for all of us here, though, at J&J Production Studios and the What's Up Bro podcast show, we love you guys so much. Appreciate your support. Our audience base is growing. We love you guys so much. You're showing us your support. We appreciate that. We do these kind of things to have the content for you guys, to provide it for you as well. Stay tuned, guys, for the next episode. We will be back live. Pending when this episode goes up, might still be on vacation, might be just coming back. We'll try to post updates on social media, but we will be live again soon. Plenty more stuff to come. Also, stay tuned for more fun events. We're going to look at doing some streaming things, possibly coming up maybe later in the summer, end of August, September kind of thing. We'll see. We do also have, we're hoping to talk to Miranda Maverick, who I'm hoping to see, was planning to go see July 1st. She's coming out in the PA area. I'm hoping to stop by to see her. We're going to have her.
Where's she fighting
at? She's actually not fighting. She's coming out. It's her birthday celebration. It's like a meet and greet. She will be out actually at Airport Road. Miller's Ale. I think it's a restaurant out there.
Oh, Miller Ale is in over by Target in the airport shop.
Yeah, she'll be there. I guess they're going to show the episode of she had her fight back in June, which unfortunately she did lose that one, but she was going to show that, and she has some merchandise things available. It's kind of like a sort of meet and greet / a birthday event, so planning to pop in and say hello. So if you guys also...
You think I should challenge her to a fight?
You can if you want to. I sure as hell wouldn't, but...
I just don't feel like losing that.
And if you ever watched her fight, she is not showing one of mercy. She's got a hell of a kick in her legs. She's got powerful kicks going there.
I'll pass.
I would say, I'd be polite and say hello, and I try not to touch on that too much because I like my limbs the way they are. So, I would definitely not do that. But if you guys were out there, so glad you got a chance to talk to her if you're local there. It's in out in PA towards Allentown area going that direction. So check it out if you're available there. Maybe I've seen you guys there. I'm not sure. But until next time, guys, as always, of course, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Plenty more to come. Can't wait to see you guys again soon. Goodbye for now. But of course, and as always, until next time, we will see you at the show.
Thank you for listening to the What's Up Bro show. Catch all the latest live action on your favorite podcast streaming services, including Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. You can also check out episodes on the studio's official YouTube channel. Subscribe and become a member today. Don't forget to also turn on notifications so you'll know when new content is uploaded. Stay tuned and don't miss a single moment. We love and appreciate all your support. And as always, we will see you at the show.